Serbia, Samberg, Willie OAM. Let's continue this discussion. I don't think enough context was added or enough information was added about what happened in Serbia. So let's trace events. I was in Istanbul. I then flew into Greece because I decided to go to Greece. And then I decided, all right, I'm going to fly into Serbia. I've never had any issues going into Serbia. Never contacted their government. No desire to contact their government ever again, quite frankly. Because I had been a kickboxer in Serbia, a gym called Ronin in Novi Sad. I was invited out there to help a upcoming or aspiring journeyman. I don't know how you want to, whatever, pro kickboxer who's my friend, who I'm not going to drag into this because this is not his battle. And he's a heavyweight. So I was basically his sparring partner. So I spent many months in Serbia before the war, um, for the sake of kickboxing. I'm more of a grappler, but I would hit up gyms like Kimura and in Serbia, in Belgrade, and a couple of the other ones. I think there was one other one in Novi Sad for MMA. So I was basically there happy just to warm up pro fighters for their careers and maybe getting another pro match myself. So I figured, all right, I've been through Serbia before the war, during the war, and I wanted to see my friends and some old places that I enjoy in Novi Sad. So I get off the plane from Belgrade and and I take a taxi to Novi Sad. Kurva, it's expensive now. Um, After that, I went to get prescriptions, which I was prescribed. We've all talked about this. I have a dependency on um, medication prescribed to me, which was prescribed to me by the VA. Not trying to play the victim here, but a little bit of context. And I check into what was like a 4 or 5 star hotel. I paid like 110, 130 euro for the place because I figured it'd be a good place to sleep. Like I hadn't been sleeping, I've been suffering from withdrawals, and I wanted to just zonk out for like 12 hours. And approximately midnight, let me check the dates. It's all getting foggy, but let's just go around with the beginning of August, okay? There's a lot to discuss here. I don't want to bog you down too much. I get a like a courtesy phone call. Where'd the lighting go? As you see, I'm totally intent on content creation because my lighting setup is so fancy. Try to, I think the storm did that. But anyways, oh, there we go. Yeah. So I got a ring on the phone from reception, and you're just waking up. I don't know what was said, and within moments there was a knock, and there were two Serbian agents. And yes, I'm drinking. Let me drink. It's a weekend. Makes for an interesting story, anyways. So two Serbian agents were there. They definitely were Balkan in appearance. And like they didn't look like Russians. Now you're like, how can you tell the difference? I've lived in Eastern Europe for a long time. Before people who came to Ukraine for war tourism. Huh. Anyways, lived in Eastern Europe for a while. I could tell that they were Serbs. They weren't ethnic Russians, that's for sure. And their accents were Serbian. They weren't Russian. I could tell that much. I mean, I can speak. Можно говорить по-русски. Može po srpski jezik. A little bit. I know what Serbian sounds like. I've heard them communicate in Serbian. So it's definitely established that these dudes were at least very credible at being Serbians. Because some people in the comments are like, how do you know they're Serbians? Blah, 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 blah. They were Serbians. And they're like, we need to talk to you. You're not in any trouble. Just come with us. And at this point, I'm like, fuck. Like, I could, I'm like, I'm still waking up, like, as they're coming into my room. So they didn't give me the courtesy of even stepping out my room. They just invited themselves in. Is that the Lupin? I think the Lupin Hotel in Serbia, right? It's in Novi Sad, right near like the, Stari Gorad, old city. So I'm like stumbling to put my Crocs on in the beginning. I walk out the door. I get into their car. I don't remember where they drove me. It was dark at night. It was around midnight, maybe one. And they take me to a building, a large one. There's lots of brutalist architecture in Serbia. I couldn't identify what it was. And, some of the questions I remember, but some of them I don't. I know this sounds like ultra convenient, like, oh, this guy knows some, he's willing to like a list. Is he full of shit? No, I'm not full of shit. This definitely happened. So the beginning was a bit rough because I was still trying to wake up and under the influence of clonazepam. But I was definitely there for at least over 3 hours. And definitely started to sort of like gain my vigor into the questioning. And I decided with a strategy of appeasing these people because there was no really other choice. And sometimes appeasing people means you throw out red herrings and cater to their national like sympathies. Serbs are easy to work with and kind of easy to manipulate too emotionally. No offense. Tell them Kosovo is Serbia. Tell them you love their culture. Tell them how great it is here. And suddenly, Serbians forgive you for bombing the shit out of their country in 1999. I mean, I had to do what I had to do to survive in this case, right? But they were definitely Serbian secret police. My contacts, who I'm not going to name, informed me that they were. Because they didn't tell me who they were. Um, anyway, so throughout the questioning, I mean, they got basically what a public version of what I've said to everybody. At no point did I discuss with them my relationship with my own government, like in any compromising manner. And if I did, it was unintentional or it was in the intent of sort of giving them red herrings to cater to their sort of their sympathies, right? Like you feed them useless information or obviously known information. Like, yeah, yeah, I've read an intelligence report that the Kosovo government is corrupt. Well, no fucking shit. Who couldn't tell you that the Kosovo government's corrupt? It's run by Albanian gangsters. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that. And they asked me about the history of my work, and I had to be frank, from point A to point B. Um, because it's also on it's been on my LinkedIn probably, and I probably said it otherwise. And again, like I was affected by benzos. So this goes on. They ask questions. They try to rinse me for intelligence. At best, I would imagine they got me to say some mean things about the Ukrainians. At best, just They're liars, blah, 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 anything that I've already said public. And these two agents, you could see their shit-eating grins like they thought they won the jackpot. Like, oh, we're going to our superiors and showing how great of work we did for Serbia. Didn't really give any information that I haven't given the New York Times. What they did do is they did have my phone, but it was locked. I don't know how quickly you can hack a phone um, in a matter of 30 minutes with a passcode in a facility that's not advanced. It definitely wasn't like in a very advanced facility. I've been in intelligence facilities before. It was nothing. It was nothing super well equipped. It was after hours. They were obviously trying to do some a degree of anonymity because they themselves didn't want to be caught on film doing this. Maybe I'm underestimating these guys. Could be the case. And I start figuring like, all right, let's establish rapport, and they're going on. They gave me they asked me what would you like to eat? So like, well, look, we're not here to bother you. You're safe here in Serbia. And maybe that is truly the case. Maybe that was truly the case. They're just doing some sort of routine intelligence sweep of a guy who's obviously made himself a person of interest, which I am a person of interest since I'm in the New York Times and all this jazz, blah 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 blah. So they couldn't get Chivapi, Serbians. Why can't your intelligence service get fucking Chivapi at 2 in the morning? Why could they got me pizza? They actually ordered 3 pieces of pizza and then they realized I was hungry and they're like, all right, just give it to this. They're like, you're really hungry, just take ours. So they're actually quite nice. And so after they realized that there's nothing really to be gained from me, except maybe on that phone, but verbally nothing. But again, I was held against it's not like I could just have the cognizance to be like, I would like to talk to the US Embassy before you detain me, blah, 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 blah. They knew that I was in a vulnerable position. Like, you go wake up in the middle of the night and have a Secret Service from Eastern Europe start barking at you. And I don't think that they were influenced by Russia, because what the fuck does Russia need to know from me? Like what? Like what? I've already been in the New York Times. I've already had established a public profile. And sorry, trying to recall a little bit. Memory has been impaired. Yeah, so like the Serbians, they release me. I go back into the hotel. I try to sleep. Obviously, you don't sleep too well after an encounter like that. Maybe I got a couple hours of sleep. I went down to the reception. I asked for the CCTV footage and who these people were, and they said, "Sorry, by law, we have to delete it. We can't do it. Hand this over. No, this isn't our fault. This is our government's." So it was just typical Balkans, like secret police bullshit, which you guys suck, by the way. No offense. Kind of came across as like wannabe hotshots. Nice guys. I'd definitely like to have a drink with you. But in terms of your like professional capacities, I definitely was able to slip out things to avoid compromising people as much as I possibly could. But I mean, it was a weird encounter. Now you can take from this, was this the Serbians that was it the Russians? Doesn't make sense. Why would the Russians do it? Was it the Ukrainians that paid them? Question mark. Was it the United States government? Dear God, I hope not. I mean, people say Serbia is pro-West, but Serbia is pinched between the EU, Russia, and its own Balkan situation. Serbia is so compromised in its geopolitical situation that we could speculate all day about what happens until something official comes about. By the way, Belgrade ACS, at least do something. I am an American passport holder. I was illegally detained, and FBI. You guys should draw some red lines. If I'm willing to help you guys out with things, and I will always remain willing to help you out regarding things that I think are going to be an imminent national security threat to my own country, which is your sphere of work, then maybe do something to regain my trust. But I don't think the FBI, I don't think the FBI even has really scope to deal with them at this moment. I don't know. I mean, what can they do? Was it the CIA? Who knows? We could play this game all day. So that's what happened with Serbia. And then at the end, I'm like, can I tell anybody about this? Like, no, unless you want enemies that are the worst enemies in the world. And they said it with a smile. It's like, all right, you really think you're gonna intimidate me? So I check out the next day, right? Sorry, things are not so congruent. It's been a rough week, as you can imagine. And I go by bus to the border. And okay, I have a Ukrainian bag. I have a green military bag. Maybe I was incidentally profiled, but me and the Colombian girls got everything ripped apart in our bags. But they let me go. They took photos of these pictures, but they're dumb border guards. Maybe they were tipped off to look a little bit more, but they could have done. I think they were just dumb. They're dumb border guards. Border guards are really easy to outsmart. A lot of people here are playing me off like an idiot. I'm a guy that's been traumatized by war and by traumatized by things that happened before war, which are nobody's fucking business. But I have a clean service record. Go look up the statistics of people who get discharged from the United States military with something other than an honorable discharge. Something like 40%. And I did 5 years active, 3 years National Guard, and I worked as a contractor. So there are obviously people who can work with me. But the problem is when you go foreign fighting and this whole Ukraine spectacle is a giant fucking circle jerk. If people want to call me a media hound, go look at Sarah Ashton Cirillo. That Twitter is ridiculous. If you want to talk about a clown, that is ridiculous. And literally, governments give her the like some sort of credence, like she's somebody important. And their relationship with the Ukrainian government. Like the Ukraine is so fucked up in terms of its government. Let's just play this out. Like they've had to sack so many people that are Ukrainians themselves for internal sabotage, high level officials. They fire people from positions like Sarah Ashton Sorolow, and then they rehire them in other places. It is such a corrupt and scandal ridden country with such lovely people who've been at this point deceived. I'm currently in Poland. Go around Poland and ask everybody how much, Slav Ukraini they feel about the war at this point. It's not as hot as you think. A lot of these people actually left in 2014 because they didn't like what was going on, or they left during the war because it was convenient, or because their houses were being bombed by Russia. But a lot of guys outside the country want to sue for peace at this point because they want to return to their lives. And that's valid. That is valid. That's not just me. Like literally, like if you approach like my experience dealing with Ukrainians, you can be direct with them. It's the best way to do it. Like don't try to like elicit it out. Like, if I just say, yeah, I wish, I want peace to happen, this war needs to end, blah, 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 they're either going to agree with you or disagree with you right off the bat. They usually don't say something sneaky, especially to a foreigner, you know, at least in my experience. The guys are in the country that have stayed there. They're forced to stay there by force by the Zelensky regime and fight. But they're also fighting for their homeland, and I get it. They're not just fighting for him, they're fighting for land that they see as theirs. They're taking vengeance against their lost loved ones. And the ethnic Ukrainians and Slavic people that are in the armed forces of Ukraine, I have never once betrayed you or never once tried to turn my back on you. Never once given any bit of information to any sort of RU blog or anything. You want to talk about foreign fighters, though? That only started as a result when somebody in Chosen Company tried to stab me to death, Greg Stenway. It was stopped by a guy named Dale, from what I can remember, but you get a bit of tunnel vision when someone's trying to kill you. Now, like a bit of context to what Samberg has to say, and he's always gonna comment. You're such a predictable cunt, dude. So when he woke up, this dude is a pro gaslighter. A pro gaslighter. I am too as well, but I'm not trying to gaslight you here. But as a pro gaslighter, I can recognize a pro gaslighter from a mile away. But at least I've been formally trained by how to do this by redacted and redacted, and also being part of a debate team. Versus he's just a scumbag, and I'm not really trying to gaslight anyone here into this situation. I really have no reason to. The U.S. government just cut me a check for $165,000 to go get mental health rehab and substance abuse rehab. So things with them are kosher, and that's going to go on. Well, they didn't cut me a check; they're going to cut the facility. But you get the point. It's just on the. It's being approved. I'm going to a rehab facility for 3 4 months. So yeah, do I have psychiatric issues? Oh, for sure. As a result of the war, I'm being a man and can own up to it. It affected me personally. Not just about the foreigners that died, but the actual Ukrainians that I know, the actual people that lived in that country before all these clout chasing monkeys came about and started TikToking. I was in the country in 2009, yet. Я могу говорить с тобой на русском, yet. Like, I've actually learned something about the culture. And what's uncomfortable about this, a lot of Ukrainians speak Russian, like people from Odessa, Donetsk Oblast, Kharkov Oblast, and they're going to continue probably speaking Russian, hopefully, because fighting a war over languages is retarded. It's a means of communication. If people think that the English language is some sort of guilt-free and lovely thing, just go Google the British Empire. But yeah, with foreign fighters, once you try to stab me, and I don't blame Chosen Company exactly for this. This was beyond Ryan O'Leary's control. You know, I have to forgive the guy in that sense. He couldn't do anything to prevent this. He could have reacted better, but I could have reacted better to a lot of other things. So I'm kind of at the point where I want to forgive him. But when someone tries to kill you in an organization, which is a power structure, and then you are taken out of that power structure, you become an individual civilian. You don't become a soldier, you're not a soldier anymore. You're a random Joe in the streets, and now you have a power structure that has tried to kill you, and then members of that power structure continue to threaten to kill you. How would you feel? How would you feel if you went to a unit with, if people want to say that I went for social media clout, 2022, where was this big social media me TikTok? No, I got into it after that because I thought, oh, like you can gain a lot of supplies, especially for drone stuff, if you're active on social media. And I figured fighting the information war is valid. I've gone to interview with multiple newspapers under nom de guerre because I didn't want to see that I was clout chasing. I mean, now, yeah, do I definitely want a bit of media attention? For sure, no doubt. Because I have a story to tell. Imagine if you had a story to tell and you had a power structure leveraged against you. You'd probably want to get that information out. To everyone who says I'm a marked man, look, the SBU ain't gonna do shit. The SBU is not going to do anything against an American citizen, especially a veteran, which is a protected class in the United States. That would immediately be a red line. The United States government, if they want to charge me or arrest me, they would stop my VA benefits. I mean, these are just boxes of new purchases. I'm obviously not destitute if I'm in Airbnb and I'm traveling around. Okay? So they would stop my VA benefits. And then I would have to turn myself into an embassy, go home and face trial, and in which I would get a good lawyer and win. I mean, it would be an exhausting ordeal, but then it would just embolden me at the end of the day. People who think that they're gonna like, Ben, I can't wait till we get Ben in handcuffs. You get me in handcuffs and a photograph, you're gonna get me smiling. At the end of the day, I know I didn't do anything deeply wrong. I didn't get anybody killed. What people did do is try to kill me. Threatening to get people killed is a very different thing than actually someone trying to kill you, which happened in Chosen Company. And people still threaten me. Listen, armed forces of Ukraine, your soldiers should have some sort of like order or discipline. Not your soldiers, your foreign fighters. Your like, don't like this term mercenary, but I'm using it as a pejorative. Your mercenaries should have some sort of standing order and discipline because dealing with me is dealing with a person that's been trained by redacted in certain intelligence techniques and worked for redacted agencies as an employee. And I haven't given you the full picture of who I am, nor will I. There's no point. Some of my shit is public record and some of it's private. I've been coached how to beat a polygraph. Now you're probably like, man, this guy's a fucking liar. I'd probably think the same thing too, but I'd rather portray myself as an animal with teeth or a man with cauliflower ears. One of the two. I don't want any more wars with anyone else. I think Samberg should focus on raising his son to be a better person because he's obviously a person that was in a pattern of abuse, which is it's tragic. Like if you look at Samberg's like family, they're clearly low class Australians. I actually did a video chat with his mother once, and you could just not to be sound like an elitist masshole, but you could just tell that these people were from the lower tiers of society. And domestic abuse is a problem in Australia, and Samberg was probably victimized as a child. I know what it's like to be victimized as a child. The thing what you do is you get therapy and you don't pass it on. So the only thing that could really wish for Samberg is that, look, you've had three baby moms, man. Like, raise a good son, because the world doesn't need any more people like you. The world doesn't need any more people like me. The world needs decent people, and you can actually rectify a wrong in life that you may have committed by raising an outstanding guy. Because your wife sounds like a lovely woman, by the way, like a decent person. It just seems like you've groomed her, correction, groomed her. I mean, it is grooming. If you're older and more intellectually equipped and you go after somebody who's 18, it's grooming. Everybody knows that. Like, it's one thing to I don't know, bang an 18-year-old, whatever. Wild things happen in Mexico. But it's the whole other story to engage in a relationship with them when you're in your late 20s. They don't have, like, your prefrontal cortex as a man is formed at 25, as a woman is 23. So pretty much anything before that is basically a child. So while it's not illegal, nor should it be illegal, because we have these things called consent laws, blah, 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 blah. He groomed her, but he can still right his own wrongs as a guy. So I encourage you to raise a good son, rectify the wrongs that you've done with the women. And I'll make a promise to you. I'm going to go get mental health rehab, and I'm going to try to do something better for the world instead of being this edgelord piece of shit that I've been a few times. And you've been the biggest edgelord too. Like, this series could, like, this could be like some sort of like 2000s, like new punk song. This is what it's like when edgelords collide. What was the name of that band? I forget. They're from Boston. I should know that, or at least the I can't remember it. My memory has taken an impact due to obviously substances prescribed by me, which are the side effects of them, and PTSD. It affects your memory. It does. This is like a solid fact. And so, guys, look, after war, I'll give you some solid advice. Go out and get mental health support, even if it's just like talking to a therapist once a week. Depend, like, never be afraid to ask for help. There's nothing non-macho about it. I don't have to prove my masculinity to a single person here. And I'm willing to say that one of the most responsible things you can do after a war is to get help. I didn't look for it in the right places, but now I've been pointed in a path by my buddies from the gym to sort of unfuck my situation. And the US government, the VA, is doing an excellent job in handling it. A little bit bureaucratic, a little bit annoying, but that's life. And I'm going to be away at an ultra luxury high end PTSD rehab clinic that's going to amount to, I think, $160,000 was the invoice. 160,000. So my government still cares that much about me and its veterans, which is a good thing. That's a good thing. Your government does care about you veterans out there. You can go out there and get help. So if you're a foreign fighter, dog, like, you don't have the macho culture shit. I mean, maybe that's part of the problem is a lot of like insecure dudes, which I was part of the picture, go into the military and they try to prove their machismo Back in the day, I didn't have a beard. I didn't have muscles. Didn't have cauliflower ears, although I did wrestle, and I was insecure. And the military was the outlet to sort of prove myself. But I don't need to prove myself anymore, nor do you. You fought hard, irrespective of the side that you're on. Do I support Russia? No, I support peace. Would I like to see a normalization of relationships with Russia? Yes, because it has to happen at some point. You can't just live in this mystery geopolitical world where you think that Russia is going to disintegrate, which would be, yeah, the largest nuclear power in the world disintegrating amongst 113 plus ethnic groups. That would be great. So a Balkanization of Russia would be great. We already saw what happened to the Balkans, and that was just Yugoslavia. That didn't work out well for anybody. So the reality is, if you want to talk geopolitics, I can punch at a heavier weight at that than I can at soldiering. The criticisms I've gotten about, man, you probably shouldn't be a soldier anymore. Yeah, no shit. No shit. The first time I went, I was okay, but I burnt out after 55 days. The second time that I went, I was already burnt out. Totally admit that. I was not the man for the job. But sometimes you have trouble acknowledging these things. That's why in personal growth, you have to start like being introspective and saying like, man, like what's wrong with me? Like how can I fix myself? Or else you're just going to be the same cunt. What I need to do is to learn to react to people who are bad better, to learn to conflict de-escalate, to avoid putting myself in situations that cause these problems. And obviously, I am in the process of getting help. So my biggest message is that I didn't kill anybody. Nobody was truly betrayed other than Samberg, maybe, but he deserved it. And I'm going to get help. Everybody, if you've ever fought in a war, you're more of a man than you don't need to prove yourself as a man. Well, that's a shitty point. Let me redact that. Let me redact that. You don't have to be a man to fight in a war, but you are a warrior if you fought in a war. Sometimes. There are some people out there that just wear a uniform and talk like Sam41. You are not a warrior. That is for sure. Samberg, I'll call you a warrior, call you a shitbag, but I think you could be a redeemable person too. Because you're smart. Like, you're a smart guy. You were actually my friend at one point. Um, that's one of the more tragic things about this. So, I'm off to rehab in the next couple of days. I'm going to be in a psych hospital, like a psych luxury resort for 3 months, where I'm going to have specialized diet and analysis and everything taken care of. And then I'm going to go about choosing my next options in life. And I appreciate um, you guys listening if you like this. Actually, I don't appreciate it because I wish I never had to say it. But if you're listening, kudos. That's all I got to say. Adios, have a good night, and Slava, peace, motherfuckers.